Thank you. You mentioned a few things, looking at the mixed-use employment zone, removing the 50% minimum commercial requirement. I'm intrigued by that. I've long thought myself that's probably a good idea, so I'm happy that's in here. You walk me through some data here, like the ME zone. My understanding, when it came into effect in the 2013 code, actually didn't have that requirement, and council added it sometime around 2017 or 18, I believe. And the stated goal of that was precisely to create more actual mixed-use buildings. And we've had a few discussions about that tonight. My criticism at that time and since is that I think that the 50% minimum probably overshot it, right? Do you have any research or data-backed analysis of do we just go back to completely abolishing that limit? Is it appropriate to lower it to some other number where we say, okay, well, if it's in a zone that allows maybe a 5-story building, we say that no more than 1/5 is commercial, right? And so then you have a ground floor of commercial and 4 stories of residential above it, right? That would be more logical to me than 50-50, which is, ground floor and maybe 1 floor residential. So maybe there's something like that. Has that worked? And just as a data point too, have there been any mixed-use buildings built into the zoning code since that 2017-18 era reform that have the 50-50 split? Are there any in the pipeline? Is that even a thing that exists? Because I don't know of any, and that's the lack of me being able to point any. It's kind of long informed my view that maybe that reform was a failure at doing what its stated intent was.
No, you're exactly right. We had this discussion back when the code was changed, but the idea of vertical mixed use is not something that's been proven practical in suburban Lakewood, right? We can occasionally get a ground floor retail on on our arterial or on our collector, but the idea that we'll have these split 50-50 vertical mixed use is just not buildable. And honestly, the only rezoning applications that we have received or that we have had applications or questions about have been rezoning away from the ME zone because those lots have proven largely undevelopable under the current code. So
I've noticed that trend as well in rezoning hearings here in the past that we've sat through. Yeah,
and so we've basically made those lots undevelopable under the existing market.
All right. So what's the best way to fix it? Right? Is it going back to abolishing any restriction of the ratio of residential to commercial? Is there some other way that?
So, there are two options in front of us and in front of you, and we'd love your feedback. Yeah, one is just to remove that and go back to the ME as it existed in 2015. The other, and I think perhaps where staff is leaning right now, is just to rezone all those MEs to MG. There's not really a significant distinction between ME as it was and in the MG. It was really, a naming convention more than anything. So I don't know that staff has a compelling reason to keep the distinction if we remove that 50-50. So I think our current recommendation would be to rezone them to MG, but we're very interested in your input.
Yeah. So maybe the ME zone just goes away. All the ME becomes an MG zone everywhere in the city. I mean, yeah, that in a lot of places that makes sense. And I mean, I'd be totally fine with, personally with getting rid of, the 50-50 requirement or any ratio requirement as well. But, at the same time, there is that I'm okay with that. There is part of me that would actually love to see a real bona fide mixed use building in some areas, and I do, still have a part of me that wonders if some ratio, like a 20%, like 1 part out of 5 ratio or something like that, 1 part out of 6 ratio, if there's any data of anywhere something like that actually working and achieving that goal of getting more mixed use buildings, if we keep the zones in the right places along the arterials or commercial streets that are going to support that to begin with.
So the example that I give in Lakewood is Belmar. All of us look at Belmar as the picture of mixed use, right?
Yeah.
But it's horizontal mixed use. In over 100 buildings in Belmar, there are only 3 that are vertically integrated between commercial and residential. Mm-hmm. It is a mixed-use area that has residential buildings and has commercial buildings. And they all work greatly together to create this walkable, livable neighborhood without any of them having required vertical mixed use. And so I think that's the goal, is for us to create these walkable neighborhoods with a variety of building types.
Right. No, and yeah, thank you for stating that. I think you said that and pointed to the Belmar example a little more eloquently than I was able to at the moment. But that, yeah, just my sense that like the market will kind of deliver in a lot of cases these mixed use, in a mixed use area will have a horizontal mixing of uses kind of naturally occur. It is precisely why I'm personally okay with just completely, eliminating that 50-50 requirement, or rezoning away, to MGS, whatever makes sense.